Focus! 1 in 25 people you meet has no conscience. That's not metaphor, it's psychology. The charming friend, the calm executive, the partner who never flinches. They feel nothing, yet they know exactly how to make you feel everything. Dark psychology isn't just in prisons or politics. It's in persuasion, attraction, leadership, even love. So the real question isn't who uses it. It's when have you? You're watching Fruity Wisdom, where deep ideas turn into sharp, life-changing insights. Subscribe and stay curious, because understanding dark psychology isn't about them. It's about seeing the hidden architecture of us. The patterns of persuasion we call charm, the lies we rename strategy, and the instincts that whisper, power is survival. So let's open the first page and step into the minds of those who dared to map the darkness. Number 1. The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Greene doesn't write about power, he conducts an autopsy on it. Every law in his book is carved from centuries of history, ambition, and betrayal. From courtiers in marble halls to CEOs in glass towers, the same instincts repeat: the hunger to rise, the fear of falling, and the quiet genius of those who play the long game. He shows us that power isn't given, it's taken, through perception, control, and emotional distance. When Greene says, never outshine the master, he's revealing a law of survival in any hierarchy, the invisible rule that humility is often strategy in disguise. And crush your enemy totally isn't cruelty, it's recognition of how resentment festers when mercy is half-hearted. But here's where it gets dark. These laws work because they exploit what's already in us. Our desire to be seen, to belong, to win. Every office, every friendship, every digital interaction hides microversions of Greene's power plays. The compliment that disarms. The silence that manipulates. The appearance of honesty that conceals the deeper move. So we're left with a question that echoes long after the last page. Is power the art of control, or the art of concealment? And if every relationship contains strategy, can authenticity survive in a world built on influence? Number 2. The Prince by Niccolò Machiavelli. Before psychology had a name, there was Machiavelli, a man who dared to write what others only whispered. He stripped away the illusions of virtue that rulers wrapped themselves in and revealed power for what it truly was, a theater of manipulation, performance, and survival. In The Prince, morality is not a compass, it's a costume. The good leader is not the most kind, but the most calculating. Machiavelli teaches that cruelty, if used swiftly and decisively, can preserve order more effectively than hesitation ever could. And kindness, if used without awareness, can destroy kingdoms faster than swords. He doesn't celebrate deceit, he diagnoses it. The same way a surgeon studies a wound before trying to heal it. For him, leadership is an endless negotiation between fear and love, and when forced to choose, he warns, it is safer to be feared than loved. Because love is fragile. It fades, it doubts, it breaks under pressure. But fear obeys. Centuries later, his words still echo through boardrooms, campaign speeches, and social media strategy meetings. Every influencer curating an image. Every politician smiling for the camera while plotting the next move. Every subtle, I'm doing this for you, that hides, I'm doing this for me. Machiavelli teaches us a truth we don't like to face, that morality and manipulation often live in the same mind. And sometimes, what we call good leadership is simply dark psychology with better branding. So we ask ourselves, in the pursuit of influence, where does authenticity end and strategy begin? And when everyone plays the game, is anyone truly innocent? Number 3. Games People Play by Berne. Dark psychology doesn't always wear armor. Sometimes, it wears politeness. Sometimes, it hides behind a smile that never quite reaches the eyes. Berne was one of the first to map the invisible chessboard of human relationships. In Games People Play, he exposes the hidden scripts we perform, the unspoken bargains, the emotional bait, the rehearsed roles that turn everyday conversation into subtle manipulation. He calls them games, but these are games without laughter, where the prize is control, validation, or revenge. Think of the colleague who forgets your idea until it becomes theirs. The partner who plays the victim to gain sympathy. The friend who gives advice not to help you, but to feel superior. Each move looks innocent on the surface, but every line, every silence, is calculated to win something unseen. Berne divides us into 3 inner voices. The parent who commands, the child who reacts, and the adult who reasons. And he shows how our conflicts often come from letting the wrong voice drive the moment. The parent scolds when the adult should listen. The child sulks when the parent should lead. In that chaos, games begin, patterns of blame, guilt, withdrawal, and charm that loop endlessly until someone finally sees them. What makes Berne's insight unsettling is how ordinary it is. He doesn't describe monsters or manipulators, he describes us. Every I'm fine that hides a wound. Every it's okay that actually means you owe me now. We all play these games, not out of evil, but out of fear of losing connection. Berne's message cuts deep. Awareness ends the game. Once you see the script, you can rewrite it. But until then, we're all actors reciting lines we didn't even know we memorized. Number 4. Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. Some people control others through strength, others through fear. But the most dangerous kind of control is the one that feels like choice. Robert Cialdini spent years studying why we say yes, why we trust certain voices, why we obey certain requests even when we don't want to. And what he found wasn't magic, it was mechanics. 6 invisible levers that pull human behavior like strings on a marionette. The first lever is reciprocity. Give someone a small gift, a compliment, a favor, and their mind whispers, I owe you something. Then comes commitment and consistency. Once we declare a belief, we defend it, even when it starts to crumble. Then there's social proof. If the crowd claps, we join in. If the room laughs, we laugh too. Because being wrong hurts less than being alone. Authority makes us trust the lab coat, not the logic. Liking makes us follow those who flatter our reflection. And scarcity, the final lever, makes us crave what we might lose, even if it was never worth wanting in the first place. Cialdini's work reveals something haunting. Persuasion isn't an art of words, it's an art of timing. It's knowing when to ask, how to mirror, what emotion to trigger. Marketers use it, politicians weaponize it. Even lovers, sometimes without realizing, use it to win affection or forgiveness. But here's the twist, these same 6 levers that can manipulate us can also protect us, once we see them. Awareness turns the puppet into the puppeteer. The moment you recognize the pull, the string snaps. Cialdini doesn't tell us to distrust everyone. He teaches us to slow down, to think twice before reacting. Because influence isn't always evil, but blindness to it always is. So the next time you feel yourself agreeing too quickly, pausing too late, or buying too fast, ask yourself, is this my choice, or did someone choose it for me? Number 5. The Lucifer Effect by Philip Zimbardo. What turns good people cruel? What makes a kind heart obey a dark order? Zimbardo didn't search for those answers in theory, he built an experiment to find them. In 1971, the basement of Stanford University was transformed into a prison. 24 ordinary men, half guards, half prisoners. No real crimes. No real punishment. Just a simulation. And yet, within days, the line between role and reality vanished. The guards began to humiliate, the prisoners began to break. The masks of authority fused to the skin, and cruelty became casual. The study was meant to last 2 weeks. It was shut down after 6 days. Zimbardo, once the observer, realized he too had become part of the system, the quiet enabler of a descent he thought he was merely recording. In the Lucifer Effect, he doesn't point at monsters, he points at conditions. He shows how power, anonymity, and obedience can strip away empathy layer by layer until morality collapses under the weight of just doing my job. It's the psychology of uniforms and orders. The same forces that echo through history, from war crimes to workplace bullying, from mobs on the street to hate behind a keyboard. He reminds us, evil is not born in shadows. It's born in systems that reward silence and punish dissent. The scariest revelation? Every one of us has a guard and a prisoner inside. Given the right pressure, the right mask, the right audience, the roles can switch in a heartbeat. Zimbardo's lesson is both terrifying and redemptive. If situations can corrupt, awareness can rescue. If power can dehumanize, empathy can rebuild. The darkness isn't somewhere out there, it's in the choices we justify when we stop questioning. Number 6. Snakes in Suits by Paul Babiak and Robert D. Hare. We imagine psychopaths in mugshots, cold eyes, violent crimes, courtroom confessions. But Babiak and Hare reveal something far more unnerving. Many of them don't break the law at all. They run companies, lead meetings, charm investors, and they do it wearing tailored suits instead of handcuffs. In Snakes and Suits, these authors trace how the psychopath, that person without empathy, guilt, or remorse, thrives not in chaos, but in structure. They move through corporate hierarchies with surgical precision. Where others hesitate, they act. Where others feel, they calculate. And in a system that rewards confidence over conscience, they rise. They know how to mimic empathy like fluent actors. They study your tone, your habits, your weaknesses, and feed back the version of themselves you most want to believe in. The perfect boss, the visionary partner, the bold leader who gets results at any cost. But beneath the charisma lies the predator's logic. People are pawns, emotions are tools, loyalty is leverage. Hare's research, the psychopathy checklist, shows that these individuals often appear calm, articulate, even magnetic. Their emotional detachment is their superpower. They don't crumble under pressure because they never cared to begin with. And the frightening truth? They often get promoted for it. Babiak calls it the psychopath's advantage, a mind unburdened by empathy in a world that mistakes ruthlessness for leadership. They read the rules not to follow them, but to exploit the spaces between them. To them, people are profiles to be decoded, and success is the art of perfect imitation. Snakes and Suits teaches one thing above all: darkness doesn't always announce itself. It networks, it shakes hands, it makes eye contact, and when it finally bites, it smiles first. Number 7, The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene. If power is about control, seduction is about surrender, not forced, but invited. It's not a kiss. It's a psychological choreography, one mind leading, another following, both pretending they aren't dancing. Robert Greene returns here, not to write about love, but to expose the emotional machinery behind it. In The Art of Seduction, he unveils how charm becomes strategy, how fascination becomes a leash, and how attention itself can be weaponized. This is not a romance manual, it's a mirror for manipulation. Greene introduces us to archetypes: the siren, who lures with allure and mystery; the rake, who intoxicates through obsession; the charmer, who mirrors your soul until you forget where yours ends. Each seducer studies psychology the way a hunter studies patterns, learning when to speak, when to stay silent, when to give, and when to withdraw. What makes this book dangerous is not its advice, but its accuracy. Because seduction is not limited to romance, it appears in politics, in marketing, in every smiling handshake. Influence wrapped in beauty, control disguised as care. Greene shows us how the world flatters before it consumes, how connection becomes the most elegant form of power. But he also leaves us with a haunting paradox. To resist seduction, you must first understand your own hunger for it. We are drawn to what validates us, to what promises to make us feel seen. And the true seducer doesn't create desire, they reveal it. So the question isn't, who seduces whom? It's, whose story are you living? Because every act of charm hides a script. And in the theater of human emotion, the most powerful role is knowing when to stop performing. Number 8, The Crowd, A Study of the Popular Mind, by Gustave Le Bon. A single person can think. A crowd can only feel. Gustave Le Bon wrote The Crowd more than a century ago, but his words now describe our timelines, our comment sections, our headlines. He studied the moment when individual minds dissolve into collective emotion, when logic is replaced by rhythm, and reason drowns beneath the noise of belonging. Le Bon's insight is terrifyingly simple. In a crowd, people stop being themselves. Identity fades, accountability vanishes, and the subconscious takes the wheel. We become suggestible, moved not by truth, but by tone. A phrase repeated enough becomes conviction. A lie spoken with confidence becomes belief. He saw it in revolutions, riots, and movements, the way masses could turn from worship to destruction in the span of a heartbeat. And though his book predates the internet by a century, you can feel his ghost whispering through every viral outrage, every trending illusion, every collective surge of certainty that leaves empathy behind. Le Bon teaches that the crowd doesn't seek truth, it seeks comfort. It wants to belong more than it wants to be right, and in that longing, leaders are born, those who understand emotion better than reason. They don't argue, they arouse. They don't persuade, they ignite. The manipulator of the crowd doesn't control thought, they amplify feeling until thought gives up. But Le Bon also offers a mirror, not just a warning. Because every time we share without questioning, react without reflecting, or follow without asking why, we become the crowd. And the moment we realize that, we reclaim the one thing the collective can't survive without, the individual mind. So when the world starts shouting, ask yourself, is that my voice in the noise, or just my echo? Number 9. The Sociopath Next Door by Martha Stout. 1 in 25 people you meet has no conscience. No empathy. No guilt. No remorse. They don't feel the sting of shame or the warmth of compassion, only the thrill of control. Martha Stout's The Sociopath Next Door isn't a horror story, it's a diagnosis of everyday life. She reveals that sociopaths rarely appear monstrous, they appear normal. They're charming, attentive, and impossibly convincing. They wear empathy like a costume and sincerity like a disguise. They don't need violence to dominate, they use trust. They cultivate it, shape it, and feed on it. They play the long game, earning affection just to spend it later like currency. And when they finally betray, they do so with perfect calm. Because for them, emotion is not real, it's leverage. Stout teaches us to recognize them not by their charm, but by the patterns they leave behind, the trail of confusion, the subtle self-doubt, the constant need to justify why their behavior makes sense. They rewrite reality one sentence at a time, until you question your own memory more than their motives. But what makes this book truly haunting is the compassion beneath its warning. Stout reminds us that conscience, that inner voice that hesitates, that aches, that apologizes, is not weakness, it's what makes us human. And to survive among those without it, we must protect empathy without letting it become naivety. So, look closely at the people around you, not with paranoia, but with awareness. The sociopath next door may never reveal their nature, but your boundaries will. Because once you learn to say no without guilt, they lose their favorite weapon, your kindness. 10 books, 10 mirrors into the human mind. And together, they whisper a truth darker and more liberating than most of us dare to face. The monsters we fear are not strangers, they're reflections. Because dark psychology isn't just about manipulation or deceit, it's about the potential for both inside all of us. Every law of power, every act of persuasion, every hidden game begins with something heartbreakingly human, the desire to survive. To be seen, to belong. We all hold the tools of darkness in our hands. A well-timed silence, a calculated compliment, a truth told at the perfect moment to wound or to win. And in that recognition comes the choice to use awareness as a weapon or as light. When Greene warns us of power, when Cialdini dissects persuasion, when Zimbardo reveals obedience, they're not teaching corruption, they're mapping the mind's shadow so we can walk through it without losing our humanity. Because power without empathy becomes tyranny. Influence without conscience becomes control. And intelligence without self-awareness is the most dangerous form of blindness there is. So, learn to read the darkness, not to become it, but to recognize when it's wearing your smile. To see through charm, through authority, through the crowd's roar and return to the quiet center of thought that cannot be deceived. The truth is simple, but it isn't easy. Evil doesn't arrive as a villain. It arrives as convenience, as persuasion, as us, when we stop paying attention. So stay awake, stay aware, and never mistake control for connection. You're watching Fruity Wisdom, where ideas stay human, even in the noise. Subscribe, and stay curious.